Hello everyone and welcome back. Welcome back, to our Game Week 21 preview. I'm Chris. Kieran is here too. How are you today, Geek?
Yeah, I'm well, thank you. Yeah, going well.
I feel like we were just talking before we came on about how many weeks it's been, and I think it's been, because of Christmas. I think it's been 3 weeks, and we've missed. Did you say we've missed two?
We missed
deadlines?
3 game weeks.
Three game weeks.
Possibly two.
I think we left ahead of the Christmas game week, and we just
we
didn't
missed
do
19 and 20.
That's right, and we didn't do one in the gap. So we're back now with a vengeance, and we're not really planning to miss any between now and the end of the season. So it's just the funny week and the quick turnaround. But let's have a recap before we jump back into sort of looking ahead to Game Week 21, because there's lots to talk about with Haaland, Salah, and Son, and their replacements. But let's cast our minds back to Game Week 20, which wrapped up at the beginning of last week. I feel like because the FA Cup just throws me off so much. Do you want to start and air some frustration about Salah because you were not happy as those points were coming in?
No, I wasn't.
Okay.
I just I figured on paper, there was loads of good fixtures. I figured on paper that was probably the hardest game of all of the captain options. So I went for a little punt in Watkins. He got me 2 assists. I was feeling really good. It didn't go for Alvarez, which many did. He obviously he ended up a little bit less, but I could have gone there, so that would have been nice. But the other option was obviously Salah, last one. I was just like jammy pens, like Jota diving. I'm definitely gonna say that's a dive. Like just
it was poor, wasn't it?
Just annoying. Like generally, like I figured it was gonna be like one of my weeks, like just a lucky good week where everything sort of comes in, and it just turned up kind of shitty in the end. But obviously, it was still a decent score of 92. I still got a good green arrow, but obviously if I'd just gone with Salah and not changed anything, because it was on Salah to start the week, and then it would have been a really good week. I think I went from like 460k to 310k, so it was a decent jump, but nice. Could have been in the 200s, and looking upwards from there. But,
I feel like it when the scores were coming in from that Villa game, and about 10 minutes before the end, Watkins was on 2 assists and max bonus. I was like, Keith clutched this, because I think Watkins was not like fancied as a top captain pick, and I agree. I thought Salah would get a return, but I didn't think he'd get 2 goals and an assist by any means. So I was happy that it came up when we were like together, when you saw me, or you saw the Dubravka pen save from the Salah miss, and I was thinking, oh god, because I was at that, like, basically going into half time, we were nearly on minus points on that captaincy. So
exactly.
It wasn't good.
So I thought it was going to be so good from there, but no.
I got 99. I was so gutted. I mean, obviously happy, but really happy. But to get that close to the century, Saliba and Gusto didn't get any points between them. It's just like a classic case. I feel like there's not many points in defence unless you're paying big money. So that was a bit disappointing. But both of our front eights absolutely delivered, although they're only like a player different. But all of our attackers got points, so that was great, and it was a good game week really. So looking forward to springboarding off the back of that. I had another green arrow as well. I'm up to 200 and I think 280 now. Okay, maybe 270k. So I'm pretty pleased with that. At this stage of the season, I'm obviously still got chips in hand, blanks and doubles coming up potentially. So lots to talk about. All right, well let's just jump into the chit chat for this week. I think probably a good place to start is Haaland, and it's been touted that he's going to be coming back sometime in January by Pep. And if we don't go for him, City's fixtures are that good, and it's looking at who else might be options there.
Yeah, so obviously, do we get him back? Because obviously the question, like, is it this week? Obviously, we will be getting him back, obviously, this week. Obviously, the fixtures are Newcastle away, which is obviously pretty tough. Burnley at home, Brentford away, Everton at home, Chelsea at home, and then Bournemouth away. Like those 6 all look pretty good, apart from possibly this Newcastle one, which you'd still probably expect City to win, but maybe like not by a lot, I would think. Yeah, he has been pictured in full training last 3 sessions ish. This was, I mean, I wrote these notes on like Monday, so there's probably been a few sessions since then as well. Pep sort of continued to mention that he's got a bone stress, and he's been seen like jumping and kicking, and apparently says he feels good and things like that. So yeah, then there was obviously the FA Cup of the weekend.
Yeah.
Wasn't in the squad at all again, so hard to see what that means. But yeah, there could be a press conference. I'm not actually sure. I think there may be one tomorrow before the deadline, like 1 o'clock ish. I mean, I'm hoping so. I don't actually know for sure. But there isn't going to be much info, to be honest, unless we get that presser.
I think we should get it because the game's Saturday, isn't it? And
yes. So
there
like, should be on Friday. Would be the hope anyway. To me anyway, like other than his sort of comments that he might make tomorrow or on Friday, sorry. I think he's possibly 1 week too early for Haaland. I think he hasn't played any minutes since game week 15 now, which is basically over a month ago. So I would assume he needs sort of like easing back in, just kind of like De Bruyne has been having. He's been getting a few minutes off the bench, 20, 30 minutes, that sort of thing. I would expect something like that for Haaland too. Obviously, it's not been as long as Haaland out as it has been for KDB, but yeah, that seems to be what he does with easing players back in. So, and you don't want to risk it before it's too early with him because it's a stress. Like it doesn't seem like it's something he's going to go for like surgery for or anything like that. So, yeah, I think most people and me too, I think are leaning to just leaving him for 1 more week and just waiting to see if he's back for that Burnley at home game. Yeah, obviously Newcastle at home have been obviously really good this season. 8 wins, 2 losses. They've had 23 goals scored, only 7 conceded, but 3 of those were versus Nottingham Forest, which was a bit of an anomaly. But yeah, St James Park seems to be a bit of a fortress, so it's not going to be an easy game in any sense. People are looking to bring in like Foden and stuff like that. Like, are you really expecting a huge haul from them against Newcastle away?
Probably not.
I don't really think so.
No, I think yeah. I agree. I kind of think it'd be a low-scoring win for City, and I think you're right on Haaland. It feels like what we've seen with De Bruyne and him being eased back in. The fact that Haaland hasn't even made the squad at the weekend, and fair enough, he's been pictured in training, but I think an away game against Newcastle, they've been doing, well enough and winning it since he's been away, and the other players have stepped up. I don't think there's like a desperate need to get him back in. It's not like they need a win here in terms of they haven't won in a few games. Obviously, they need to win.
He was pictured in training like before the Club World Cup as well. He didn't play any part in that. So like, what do we take from him being in training now? Like, I'm not even sure.
Not much. No, I kind of think, and the fact his ownership's dropped so much now as well. Like, I think it's dropped down to like mid-50s%. I think most active players are going to be in the same position as us. And other active players. Really, we're going to be cautious. I don't think anyone's probably getting him this week thinking I'm going to gamble and hope he gets 20 minutes, half an hour at the end of the game, because I definitely think he's not playing 90 if he comes
I think the best you're hoping for is maybe 45.
Yeah,
I would think, or 60 minutes if he starts, but that seems unlikely.
Yeah, no, I agree. So I'm quite happy. Sounds like you are as well, just to go without him again this week. And
I think so.
I just is annoying because if we'd known the full extent of what this was like weeks ago, I mean, you were different than me, but I held on to Haaland for like 3 game weeks, which in hindsight, looking back, is obviously going to be a bad decision at the end of the season. And
yeah, we could have got Trent for all these hauls, and
absolutely. I feel like big opportunities missed, and I don't know. Maybe it's just like a lesson learned for the next time, like a big value player is out or injured. It's to make the most of that, and yeah, but
at the same time, like you didn't know, like there was just all this talk about him being possibly okay, and it's just that it was just that, it's so annoying that it happens to be Pep and City, and who are just very like to kind of not say if he's injured, or if he'll just say, oh, we'll see, or whatever, stuff like that, and we've got a training session and we'll make a call, and it's just like that. Not useful for any of us at all.
No. And we even heard before the Palace game, do you remember before the break, Pep had said something like in the press conference, like, oh, he's up and walking around, which has surprised me. And it wasn't even like at that point he'd even ruled him out of Palace. So
yeah,
no, it has been difficult to know. But fair play that people that gambled and got rid at the start. But I feel like it's still playing a little bit of catch up to people that have got
I mean,
teams.
I sold him, but I didn't reinvest the funds. Like I did sell him, but I kept the money in the bank. So it's not like I made any like difference of like you have when you've sort of kept hold of him, and and people have mostly only lost. He's only lost 0.1 in price.
That's
when
crazy,
he's lost
isn't
nearly
it?
like 50% of the game in ownership.
Yeah.
And it's just like, what the hell is going on there?
know.
Like that is shocking. Like,
Yeah.
and watch, Salah's already dropped. I think he dropped on the first night of him being out, and it's like, what is going on here?
It doesn't make any sense, does it? Like the amount of people that sold him. No, don't know why. Andrew in the chat said he's looking at selling Trent and Son this week to enable a Stupian and Foden would enable keeping Salah benched through to game week 24 and 25, and then looking at Haaland back in game week 22, and that kind of brings us, unless you've got any more to add on Haaland, probably is a good time to talk about.
That sounds like a fair strategy.
Yeah, I agree, and I think Salah and Son replacements is definitely, is obviously the big talking point this game week and the game weeks we've got. Before I sort of dive into reasons behind keeping or getting rid of both of them, what's your sort of like initial gut feeling on both of them at the moment?
I think my first call is to sell Son because I've got less value in him. So Son would be the first one I'd sell. I have 2 free transfers. So it's, and I don't really have Trent. I don't have Bowen. So I think at the moment it's probably just do one and then hope Haaland's back next week, so I can just still do the 2 free transfers next week. So I think we're still going to know more info next week if Bowen's going to be like close to fitness again.
Yeah.
Like there's so many question marks this week again, like with all these random players, and there's barely anyone to even get. Like you're going to talk about them, but yeah, that's my strategy at the moment is Son, and then possibly roll the other transfer and just keep Salah for the moment.
Yeah. All right. Well, talking about them specifically, and trying to add some like logic, I suppose, to when they might come back. A couple of guys on Twitter, you've probably seen this, and I picked up on it earlier in the week, and I thought it was really useful. I think Dabasaur is how you pronounce that, and F_analytic. They've done a fantastic job in putting together basically on Bookies Odds the likelihood of returning players who are key for those teams. So Salah, Son and Hwang and Kudus, but I'll talk about Salah and Son because they're like the most owned players in this group and are going to affect a lot of teams. So Salah 45% ownership after the last game we could finish. Son had 35%. So they're like big impact on a lot of our teams. So if we look at how the bookies expect Egypt to go through the African Cup of Nations, they, well, unfortunately for us, think that Egypt are going to do well, and the earliest we get him back, so I'm saying like a more than 50% chance we have him back, is game week 24, when they've got a 72% chance down of Egypt getting knocked out and Salah coming back. Whereas when that goes up to game week 25, that's almost like 100% he's coming back. So I think that's it's quite useful really, because off the back of that instantly you're more than likely playing the odds you're going to get 3 game weeks where Salah isn't going to be playing. Son and Hwang are a bit different because the bookies don't rate South Korea's chances as well as that. They sort of have a 31% chance that Son will be back in game week 23 and slightly over 50% chance that he'll be back for game week 24. So it could be that he's back a week earlier than Salah, which is quite interesting. So I think... do
we know what their fixture is in 24? Spurs.
I can probably
Brighton at home.
So yeah, a good game that Son could come back for. And just to touch on Kudus again, they don't rate his chances of staying long in AFCON because he could be back in game week 23. So that's essentially a more than 50% chance he come back, which I'm taking.
Yeah, West Ham need them.
Quite likely. Yeah, well, I mean, talking about West Ham in a minute, it seems like Paquetá has got a bad injury. Did you hear that? Calf injury might be 2 months now.
Yeah, 2 to 3 possibly.
And the last Bowen update I read was 2 weeks. So from what was an investable attack there, another good option has gone. So I basically had a look down at what I felt were the best options as a replacement, and perhaps it'd just be good to get both of our thoughts on it really, because both of our teams here. So I think probably starting off with Bowen, we're not going to get an update. He probably, before this ankle injury or scare, which looks like it's now going to keep him out, would have been my top pick. And perhaps it's not
Same,
really
I think.
worth going over his stats if he's going to be out. But it did, in the last game week, the word of warning was when they played Brighton at home. That was like one of his quietest games this season. Brighton hadn't kept a clean sheet. Bowen didn't have any shots. He had an XG of 0.1. He had like some of the fewest amount of touches in that game. And obviously West Ham were without Kudus. Paqueta got subbed early. So even their XG that game, 0.6, was one of their lowest when their previous 6-game average had been 1.39. So, nearly halved their XG output in that one game. So even if Bowen miraculously recovers like he has done previously, I don't know how trustworthy he is despite the the appealing fixtures on paper. So yeah, I think he's out. So I think my top target, I think, after Bowen is Richarlison. So I think that
Interesting.
I think that I don't think his name's definitely being touted as much as Foden or Jota. But what I feel like about Richarlison at the moment is he was first choice centre forward when Son was there. I don't really think that Werner impacts that position. I feel like Werner's going to play left wing, and Richarlison was getting his average minutes were bad anyway. I think 71 average minutes across the last 6 game weeks, so I don't really expect that to change. I don't think he's going to get benched for him because I think that Werner's probably going to be a better player than Johnson, is it, on the left-hand side? So I don't think Richarlison's going to be affected too much. So he's possibly taking penalties as well while Son is away. He's got an average of 7 points per game over the last 6 games, which is the joint third highest of all mids and level with Son. He has been overperforming his XG somewhat, or expected points, sorry. He's had 42 points in the last 6 game weeks with expected points of 31. But just looking at his individual numbers, they're very good. So last 6 game weeks, 15 shots in the box, that's 4th of all mids. 7 big chances, the 1st of all mids. And he's the 2nd highest scorer in that time after Salah. Now, I think you've probably got to take it like a little bit off that because Son is obviously, a good creative force and a good player in that team. So that's going to impact them a little bit. But that's going to be experienced by some of the other top teams, including Liverpool. The same can be said for them with Salah out if you're looking at Jota. And over the last 6 game weeks, Spurs as a team are good. They've got the 3rd highest average expected goals per game, and I don't really think they're slowing down. And another tick in, I think, in the Richarlison column is the fact that because he took that centre forward slot as a midfielder and was playing first choice there, knowing what we know about Spurs' long-term fixtures being good, I think even if Son comes back, he could still be a hold. Like their points were similar in that time, and I feel like it's not necessarily a transfer back there. I don't know. What do you think about Richarlison? He looks good on paper. I don't really like him that much as a player, but he's been playing well at the moment and back a player in form.
Yeah. It's the X-Men's, I think, is a possibly an issue. Like you never want someone coming off like the 20 minutes of the game left. But yeah, he has been getting the points. I mean, is that still going to continue if Son's gone? Maybe it'll be someone like Werner and stuff like that who's getting subbed early. That would sort of make sense to me. And Richarlison stays if he's, he should be probably fit by now. So yeah, obviously this week doesn't look like the best fixture on paper, but then again, Spurs versus United could be an open game at least. So
well, they beat them earlier in the season. I appreciate it was at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, but they kept like a clean sheet then. I just think Spurs' long-term fixtures are good. So like if you've got other transfers to worry about, like I know Son has been so good this season, but Richarlison has matched him pretty much in the last 6 game weeks.
Yeah.
And I don't know, maybe that will continue long-term, but he seems like a good investment in a good attacking team. So I agree, the United fixture does seem off-putting, but it's not like they've been great recently. And after that,
yeah, I think he's selfish enough to be on pens as well.
Oh yeah,
to just claim them. I think Porro's taken some in the past apparently for like sporting and stuff, but I think Richarlison will just be like, give me the ball.
Yeah.
If there's penalties, so yeah, that is something for him there. I hadn't really considered him that much. I think I was looking at Foden and Jota, but Richarlison does seem like a good option just to spread, because if I'm getting Foden, I'm getting doubling up on City. If I'm getting Jota, I'm doubling up on Liverpool, and I think Spurs fixtures are that good after this one, and this one still is a good one, that it probably is a good idea to spread a little bit.
Yeah.
Richarlison makes sense. Yeah.
So after that, so like I say, so the fixtures are United away, Brentford home, Everton away, Brighton home, Wolves home, Chelsea away, Crystal Palace home. So I mean, Son could be back by Brighton, and I don't know. To me, it just looks like you're replacing a player in a good team with another player in the same team who has been matching him for the last 6 game weeks, which I think is definitely not something to not consider.
I've had a history of doing that sort of thing when someone gets injured and just sort of going to the next guy up in the same team, and it's never really worked. I've done that with Chelsea defenders when James got injured, and then I just went to the other fullback. I think it was Chilwell or someone like that, and then he got injured, and it just never seems to sort of happen like you expect it to. That the team sort of goes the other way or sort of thing. Yeah, so yeah,
I think it's almost like we've got to look at what teams are also almost being like unaffected by all these injuries and absences, and I think like a lot of them at the moment are just it's that all of them are changing, and people are making some good points in the chat. So Jammer has said the only slight worrying thing about Richarlison is his early subs, and I agree. Like he's not nailed on to play 90 minutes by any stretch of the imagination. It hasn't been, and maybe that's due in part to the fact he came back from injury. But yeah, his minutes basically since he started that game against Newcastle, it's basically somewhere between 70 and 85 he's getting subbed, and FN in the chat said a poor performance in the cup. Yeah, I agree. The performance in the cup was, from what I saw in the highlights, it wasn't good, but I don't know if you put that down to a cup game or not really, but anyway, so there's my piece on Richarlison. I think if you're looking in the, or sort of considering remaining in that sort of bracket, Foden is obviously, like you mentioned, he's been well talked up. So he's averaged 7 points per game in his last 5 games, Foden, which is actually the same as Richarlison. Interestingly, he's actually staying on the pitch longer, on average 86 minutes to 71, which I wouldn't have said about a player like Foden playing in a Man City team. So obviously more opportunity for points then. His goal threat has not been good. So 7 shots in the box in those 5 games doesn't put him inside the top 20 of all mids, and nearly back down to it's inside the 40. So you're not getting a player there who's going to be selfish. He's going to be trying to set up chances, and I'd say his reliance for points is probably coming through assists. 0.7 XG average per game is only just inside the top 50. His XA is inside the top 8, like I just mentioned. His expected points, a bit like Richarlison, he's been overperforming them, so he's had an expected points of 22 across the last 5 games and scored 30. So a fair amount of overperformance, but the fixtures are good for City, and if Haaland does remain out, he is a good option. Like Newcastle, for as good as they've been at home, they haven't been that good recently, and Burnley, Brentford, Everton afterwards are all teams with shaky defences. I suppose for City could also have this double game week in game week 25, I think it's looking like they could get is it Brentford? So
yes,
it could be that if you get Foden, and maybe I went Foden as well, I've also got Alvarez, Haaland coming back in, you could end up with triple City attack for that double game week, which is another plus point of
it's not a bad thing. I'm obviously slightly worried about his minutes with KDB back, obviously Alvarez there as well, but I think Foden has been so good recently that it seems like he's not going to be benched in any of them. I wouldn't expect. I think when everyone's back, he should still be in the team. So it's possibly like Alvarez / Bernardo that make way. I mean, but then again, he's possibly due a rest as well. So tough one. Like it's always risky going there. Like
I agree.
because I think we're on the tail end of his sort of fixtures where he's nailed on, and
I agree.
You did it last year. You got onto him,
and it was too late, and he was benched.
It was too late. He started getting benched. He started not getting many returns at all, and so that is just the worry as usual.
I think we've historically said with City, like choosing like a midfielder to go with the team is just too difficult. Like in previous seasons, you could pretty much rely on KDB, but any player around that was always at risk of missing a game or missing a couple of games. That's why it's the same with Mahrez last season. He was like never a solid pick for like a long amount of time. But if you're looking for short-term picks, which we might be now because we are just potentially replacing Son and Salah, because I think most people are going to want to have them back. They do provide a little bit of cash.
Yeah, and just on Alvarez as well, like don't really know what to do with him. Like eventually he's probably going to have to be someone to be sold. But then again, like there is that possible double game week coming up, but is he going to play both the games? Like, but then he's as seen in the Champions League, he's been pretty good off the bench.
Yeah.
So kind of like a Darwin, I guess, that you expect could do something off the bench when teams are tired. But obviously Darwin can't finish.
No.
Yeah.
No, I agree. It's definitely interesting with City at the moment. If it would be great if we had that City Brentford game confirmed to like start thinking about a double game week, because I'd be more interested in, a triple up, and I might even think about KDB, because he's just coming back. He's obviously just come back from the injury, but he was always like I say, he's always like one of the first names on the team sheet, and he's a reliable FPL player.
Yeah, KDB, I think himself mentioned he's going to be back to the bench for this week at least.
Oh, really?
It seems like. I think it was some kind of interview I saw on Twitter saying like they're just going to take it slow, and he's expecting to be on the bench this week, and he's happy to play the 30 minutes for the next few games at least, just to get his fitness back up and nothing goes wrong again. So yeah, I think Foden should be okay to start. Alvarez should be okay to start the next few, and KDB will come in eventually.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. I think just as we just mentioned, just classic City at the moment, just trying to work out who to get. And I'm the same with Alvarez at the moment. It's a player he's a player I'm looking at and thinking, when I get you've had it for weeks, but if Haaland comes back, do I really want double City attack if they don't have a double game week in the short term? Like Solanke's been playing well recently. There's such good value in mids, but I suppose while we're in this very short term, I feel like recently I've just been looking at just these next 3 or 4 game weeks as a block, because 2 of our highest point scoring the games aren't around, and it's it's really tricky.
Yeah, I think just double City attack like Haaland and Alvarez has been fine for me. Alvarez obviously hasn't been picking up loads of points, but I think you having them plus a Watkins or a decent third striker seems to be absolutely fine. Like you always know that they could haul in any week. So yeah, I
think probably a less sexy pick, but a good pick nonetheless is probably. I mean, you're probably going to be like, oh my god, for saying this, but Douglas Luiz, he just seems to get bonus so easily. Like the penalty he scored in the last game, and then just from nowhere got full bonus off the back of that. He's having a great season.
I was annoyed because of Watkins.
I know, I bet you were, but he's been a beast this season for just cropping up and getting one return and just some assist off the back of it, because he's racking up the key passes. He's got a pretty good fixture this game week in Everton. After that, they got Newcastle at home, Sheffield United away, Man United at home. All fixtures I expect Villa to do well in. He's obviously on all set pieces, pens. A good feature of him as well in game week 26, which we're expecting to be a likely blank game week for Spurs, Chelsea, Liverpool. He's got a good fixture then as well with Nottingham Forest at home, so he could be held for longer as well. I think it's one of his perks. It's not as if he's going to come in for the short term. I think he allows you to downgrade Son or potentially Salah and then upgrade one of the other midfielders, because he's had good underlying numbers and return rate all season, and I don't really see why I would stop in the second half. I think Villa's long-term fixtures are quite good as well.
Yeah, almost like a Ward-Prowse. And the fact that he's on all set pieces, penalties as well. Obviously, Ward-Prowse, I don't think is on penalties, is he? No, Paqueta was, wasn't he?
Paqueta, but he might be now.
But yeah, he's on top of Ward-Prowse for that, and just someone who's lowly priced, but just seems to tick along. But then he's always one of those, like Ward-Prowse, you buy them and then he starts blanking week after week. So, I don't know. Like, I think he's a good pick, but I also think he's not.
I don't think he's not very exciting. He's not like he's going to score like 2 goals and an assist and get you a huge point of work.
He feels like he's a good pick in like a draft mode, like that you just have there as someone who's just going to hopefully pick up something. But I don't know if he's an FPL pick really.
But I feel like, we talked about him a couple of weeks ago when he was really starting to be consistent. I mean, the season's quite deep now, and he's like the 6th highest overall point scoring mid, and he's so inexpensive.
I think we should come back to this at the end of the league. I think I think he'll
true.
probably end up around like the 10-12 mark, because I expect him to just stop returning a little bit. It'll still tick along, but I reckon it'll end up like the 10-12 midfield or something like that.
Yeah.
Which is still not bad.
Yeah. What do you think about Garnacho? FN in the chats mentioned him, and I think Andrew did as well. I mean, he's been starting well for United, or starting quite consistently for United now, either on either side. United's fixtures are, they're okay. They're quite mixed. I hadn't really considered him as an option. He's really inexpensive, 4.8 million, so you're paying even less than you are for Douglas Luiz. It's not someone that's been on my radar. I don't know if you've considered him as a replacement for them.
I haven't. I mean, I like him as a player, but I feel like it's so hard to watch United and just expect them to do anything at the moment.
Yeah, no, I kind of agree. I feel like if he was more of a focal point, and I feel like he's going to be a good player in maybe a couple of years' time, but just relying on him and United at the moment seems, I don't know, more difficult when there's better players. I think what United have got going for them, which unlike a lot of other teams, is they've got a fairly settled front line without too much injury at the moment, I suppose. But
there's barely anyone going away for these cups for United either.
Yeah, exactly. And from that point of view, they're quite interesting. But their attacking rate is not good. I think over the last 6 game weeks, they're comfortably in the bottom 8 of the teams in the league for expected goals. So. And big chances created. They're actually got the joint fewest with Luton over the last 6 game weeks. So they're not. Well, I think we saw in the FA Cup game as well. They're just not clinical at the moment. So whilst Garnacho's price is inexpensive, and he might return, if events transpire where you're looking for transfers out in the future, it just seems like a player perhaps you wouldn't hold for the long term.
Would you?
I don't know.
Would you consider Bruno then? I guess not.
Probably not. Just after, I think this is really bad from an FPL manager's point of view, but just because of burned earlier in the season, I feel like he's a good pick for X minutes and obviously set pieces. So you never know if he can get something. But from what we've seen I just go back to what I mentioned about United's poor attacking form, recently and over the course of the season. I just don't think they can be trusted, and I don't think they're a player that you would want to keep for the whole or a longer stretch of fixtures, if that makes sense. I think we talked.
It does. Yeah.
We talked the reason I think mentioned Foden and Richarlison and even Douglas Luiz is because for me those are players who if need be they could be kept longer term and they would be absolutely fine in your team, whereas I would feel less comfortable holding Garnacho or Bruno.
I mean, I'm just checking right now on just on the FPL. Bruno is below Rice for total amount of points scored. He's below Souček, for God's sake. He's below Bailey, who's not even played most of the minutes. Zoboslai is on more points than him, and who gets a goal every 3 weeks. It seems like he is not having the season you want. Bernardo is just barely. Sterling, Ward-Prowse is well above him. It's crazy.
I'd be happy to prove wrong on them, because the fixtures, as FM mentioned, they are good. They've got Tottenham at home, Wolves away, West Ham at home, Aston Villa away, Luton away, Fulham at home. They're pretty good.
They're okay.
They're okay, but they've had good fixture periods earlier in this season, and they haven't returned on the promise. So yeah, I can see why people or going towards Garnacho, but he doesn't. He's not for me, I'm afraid. But I've been way wrong before, and I'd be happy to be wrong again.
Go on to the one that I'm sort of considering as well, the Liverpool guy.
Oh, Jota. So I think you tell me why you're considering, because I think he's tricky because he's only just back and he still could get rotated.
Just because he's a jammy little bastard, and and he just whenever he plays, he seems to get points. So I think Gapco has not looked great recently, so I feel like Jota should be playing. Darwin possibly on the left. Darwin looked better when he was on the left, and Jota through the middle. So him, I mean, who's going to play on the right? I don't even know. But Diaz, Jota, and Darwin seems like the best 3 at the moment, and Jota seems to be a good goal threat at the moment. So he's just one of those guys that if he's nailed in a Liverpool team, which obviously he's not nailed,
But he's
he
more
looks like
likely
he's
to play.
more likely to be
Yeah.
nailed. He's a good option. Simple as that.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I like Jota as a player a lot. I think he's probably of those the front four. Let's say with Diaz, Gakpo, and Darwin. I'd say he is by far the best finisher, and I'd say he's also quite selfish as well, which is obviously ideal. I think that I think he's an absolutely fine pick, to be honest, and no reason to not get him. I think the only slight unknown, which, you know, like we mentioned, is going to be facing a lot of teams, is how are they going to be without Salah, but also how are they going to be without Trent over the next few weeks.
Yeah, that's true.
So, I mean, that you're taking out quite a lot of their creativity there.
Yeah, big time.
So, you know, Slabberslai,
Zoboslai.
he's out as well. I mean, he's been out for a while, but, you know, there's a question mark there. But I don't dislike Jota as a pick at all, because I think he's everything you want from an FPL player. He's a good finisher and he's greedy.
Yeah, I kind of forgot about the Trent thing as well. Like, that is two massive pieces of the creative or creativity in that team. And Jota I don't see as creative. Darwin not really either. Diaz kind of, but not really. Like, so who's creating the goals for them in the, like, Jota Bournemouth, sorry, could do all right. Bournemouth at home have been decent. This could be low scoring as well, maybe.
No, I agree. I think that's pretty much most of the ones I wanted to discuss. I think the only other notable mention, I think you're going to pick up on Gross in a minute when we talk about Brighton, but the only other one to mention, probably from an X minutes point of view, and maybe fixtures in the short term, is Odegaard. So Crystal Palace at home, Forest away, Liverpool at home, West Ham away. Highest expected assists of all mids in the last 6 game weeks. However, like, as we saw in that Liverpool game, Arsenal were just not clicking up front at the moment. He's only had 2 returns in that time. He's way down on any sort of XG metric, but he's doing really well on an X8, like I say, in the last 6 and across the season. He maybe is going to be on penalties if Saka decides to give the ball to him. He's typically on set pieces as well. So, you know, he's quite a bit like Bruno. He's like a steady pick, but maybe not an exciting one. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I think if you go there, you really have to have some kind of feeling that he's going to do well in this game. Like, it is risky. He's good for X minutes. I've aimed him at the start of the season, and he was pretty poor for me, other than one like real pop off week, where he got a 17 pointer. But apart from that, he was not doing a lot. So, it could be one of those weeks where they, like, Arsenal finally bounce back, which it certainly could be. This is the fixture that they could do that. I feel like Saka's been picking up a bit of momentum lately as well. Like, his stats are going up and trending upwards as well. So this could be the week that it finally clicks for them. I think Nketiah should probably start. I think they've actually looked fine when he's played. I don't think Havertz false 9 is the answer, that's for sure. So I think Arsenal should do well this week. I mean, like, captaincy as well. Like, is Saka going to be someone like you're going to captain?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Captaincy is so difficult this week.
Captaincy is tough this week.
We barely even discussed it.
Well, should we jump on and talk about? Do you want to talk about Brighton, because they've got good fixtures, and I was going to chit chat about Gross's replacement, but perhaps you want to do that.
Yeah, so a team to target over these fixtures. Brighton, they got the top team for easiest fixture difficulty rating, if I can say it, until game week 28 and onwards. So, like, Wolves at home this week, Luton away, Crystal Palace at home, Tottenham away, Sheffield United away, Everton at home, Fulham away, Nottingham Forest at home. So all of those are pretty good for a team like Brighton. Game week 14 to 20, they had a team XG of 13.5, which is 5th overall with 10 scored, an XGC of 11, which is mid-table, and 10 conceded. They've had 19 big chances at that time, 126 shots, which is 3rd overall of all the teams, 51 on target, which is 2nd. So their sort of attacking metrics is getting back to what we're sort of expecting with them. So as a midfielder option, Gross, who's sort of lighting up the sort of attacking stats at the moment, 6.4 million, 4% owned, so a real good differential. Obviously we've talked about the others of Jota's, like, X minutes is an issue, Bowen's possible injury, Foden possible rotation risk, etc. Gross obviously a 90-minute man. So game week 16 to 20, the last 5 weeks, he's had key passes of 21, which is 1st of all mids, big chances created, which is 4th, which is joint 1st, an XA of 1.65, which is 3rd overall. of mids. Then an XG of 1.4, which is 14th. So he's obviously a bit higher on the assist potential, but big chances himself, he's had 4, which is 3rd of all mids, and then shots 13th, which is 12th. But joint with someone like Foden, who's everyone is looking at. Foden's only had 13 shots, which is down in the 12th. But that's fine, I guess. Everyone seems to be fine with that. So there honestly is not much to not like about him right now. Like he's like, I don't know, some people have got onto him before and he's not really done much. Like I don't think I've really ever owned him in FPL. So yeah, he's someone who I think could do fine, but he's not a sexy pick as we've talked about. I don't think he's hasn't got a huge ceiling. I don't expect him to be getting double returns every week or anything, but the fixtures are there for him to possibly do that. Like it's a tough call on him. There is just the obvious Fodens and Jotters that just look like they're more sexy picks. But
yeah, I think he's a bit like Odegaard and Bruno. He's reliable, like in terms of X minutes, set pieces, and he's on penalties. And I think his fixtures are probably
he's not on penalties. João Pedro's on
penalties.
Cool.
Oh yeah,
assuming João Pedro's on the pitch. Yeah.
Well, I think if you're looking at the block of 3 fixtures, definitely that we're going to get before we have Son or Salah back, I kind of think that Brighton's trump Man United, and they probably just about trump Arsenal because Arsenal play Liverpool and Man United play Tottenham. Wolves at home, Crystal Palace at home, and Luton away. That seems like a good block of 3 fixtures, but like you say, because he's not a sexy pick, he's like maybe going to get an assist. And maybe 2 assists across those 3 games. You could be just looking at a steady stream of, I don't know, 5-3-6 or 5-3-7, and maybe that's okay. I don't know. I think he like you say, he's not sexy. He's on the same pitch as Douglas Luiz. I think.
I feel like we want to be going with these replacements. We want to be going for the high ceiling guys, don't we? I feel like just 3 weeks of just ticking along doesn't seem like good enough. No, to be honest.
No, I agree. Because you want to spend the money that you're getting from Salah and Son on someone also potentially who you could captain, because they're providing captain options. And if Haaland's not going to be back, otherwise we're looking at captaining Saka, maybe Watkins, maybe Alvarez. So it's is there a name in the mix who's got a good enough fixture who you want to be brave with the captaincy with? So that's definitely something to think about as well.
Yep. So other players in Brighton, Estepinian, if anyone's looking to do a defensive transfer at the moment, if you're looking for Trent out, then Estepinian, 4.9 million, 18% owned. I think most of that ownership is probably from dead teams who owned him at the start when he was over like 50% owned. So I expect his effective ownership is probably something in like 3%, 5%, something like that. So he's a good differential. He's fit and firing now. It seems like 2 goals in his last 2 appearances. Played 45 on his comeback, and then 2 times 90 minutes since then. They got their first clean sheet of the season with his first 90 minutes the other week, and they looked better, more solid defensively with him against West Ham. I think it was, wasn't it? Stats generally not great, obviously, over this small sample size, but we've all seen what he can do at the start of the season and last season as well, of his attacking potential, and obviously his 2 goals recently. So, I think if you've got Trent or you're looking at anyone else for a defensive move, Estepinian seems like a no-brainer. Obviously, probably not expecting many clean sheets. They only got their first season last week, and they're not great defensively, but Brighton have historically been okay for clean sheets, so I don't expect they're going to keep only 1 clean sheet all season. Like these fixtures are there for them to do it. We've seen it with Trent this season. Like people got onto him over a fixture swing, and he delivered. Like this is a fixture swing for Brighton. Estepinian seems like a great option. He could absolutely deliver.
I agree. It's a good entry point as well, especially this week with people who are looking to replace Trent. It's kind of fallen nicely for them.
Absolutely. The final guy, just João Pedro, who was my boy at the start of the season, fell out of favour, but he's back in favour now. 90 minutes in the last 3 games, 83 minutes in the FA Cup as well. 2 goals, 1 assist in the last Premier League game, two goals in the Cup as well. He had an XGI of 0.69 versus West Ham, an XGI of 2.25 versus Tottenham, and next year I have 0.3 versus Crystal Palace. So, yeah, those 3 fixtures obviously are good for attacking potential, and he only managed to get over 0. Or over 1 in that Tottenham game. So, was it a bit of an anomaly? Possibly, but I guess we'll see. Second highest XG of 2.99 of all strikers at the moment, behind Solanke. 3 big chances, 2 big chances created over these past like 5 weeks. So
Yeah.
it really is just X minutes again
There's
with
a
him.
risk with him, yeah.
Just knowing if he's going to play, which games he's going to start. I think he's a good option if he starts for sure on penalties. So yeah, I think Welbeck possibly picked up another injury. I'm not sure if that's definitely true.
Bring back in, yeah.
Yeah, but he should play the majority at the moment. Like, he has played the majority recently, and obviously, I think De Zerbi seems to go with sort of players that are in favour and in form. So, yeah, but most of us don't really have a spare transfer for the striker right now. But yeah, he seems like Brighton as a team to sort of target over these fixtures. He's a good option.
Yeah, I agree. And the fixtures, even in the longer term past, these 3 are good. So after that Crystal Palace home game, like you mentioned, Tottenham away is perhaps not a bad fixture. Sheffield United away and Everton. So, the next 6 are pretty decent for them. And, I feel like people who have got 2 transfers probably better set up to attack those fixtures, because as well as transferring out Salah/Son, who are in the majority of teams, you've also got one there to play with to target a team of good fixtures, basically.
Yeah, I'd love to do it, but as we mentioned, like, I feel like I'm possibly going to save 1 so I can get Haaland next week instead of taking a hit. So I would love to get Espinian, but I feel like I don't have the transfers to do it.
No, I agree. Well, should we bring up our teams and chat through those, and before we wrap up?
Yes. Do you want
to start talking about yours first?
Okay. So yeah, at the moment I've got Son and Salah to sell. I can field an okay team.
Yeah.
Obviously there is Taylor with the issue.
How bad is that issue? Do you know anything about that?
I don't know.
No, I don't know.
Because he could be an okay start at home.
Yeah, I agree.
If I need him, but so I've got a back 5 at the moment with the 2 in midfield and 3 up top.
Love it.
Also, obviously, I think Son is going to go. It's going to be between Foden and Jota, I guess. But I think.
Sorry, between who? Foden, Jota, and.
Foden, probably just those 2, I think.
Okay.
So I think it'll probably be Foden, because I'm not sure about the Jota without Trent and Salah. That feels like it's less. Like they weren't that good against who was it? Arsenal in the FA Cup. Like, they didn't create that much. They obviously got the 2-0, but they weren't doing a whole lot. Yeah. To be honest. So and that was with Trent. So I feel like it's probably Foden. Other than that, maybe Richarlison.
You're really unsure, aren't you?
Yeah, I am. The picks are not sexy, as we've mentioned quite a lot of times. Like, yeah, I wish KDB was like a few more weeks into his fitness thing, then I could have just gone there and been fine with it. But Bruno, maybe. Like, there's no obvious pick.
No, I agree.
And yeah, the other, I've got 2 free transfers, as FN is asking. I've got loads of money in the bank because I kept the money in the bank from Haaland. So I could pretty much do any move. It's just like Gusto in a few weeks ago seems to be covering that sort of, like, I don't have a Trent issue, so I don't really need to make a defensive transfer this week. So yeah, I think captain wise, I mean, I don't know on it again. Like, Palmer looked okay on paper, but then he missed a ton of chances in the Carabao Cup game.
He looked good. What do you know if Nkunku's going to be back for that game? I don't know why he didn't play in the.
We picked up another injury.
Oh, did he?
I don't know how long it's especially out for. So I think he was like 2 weeks or something like that, 2-3 weeks.
I love that the guys in the chat are talking about the hating captain early kickoff players, or the Livy in the chat even, and Harry's replied saying it kicks off at Saka game kicks off at 12:30. Like, there's 2 games that kick off at 12:30 for captaincy. Shouts for Palmer and Saka, but Palmer delivered in the last lunchtime captaincy against Luton, so maybe you could do it again
So yeah, Watkins might be an option
Yeah, I think Watkins
as
is not a
well.
bad
Like
shout.
might Vice Watkins just for safety, and then it's just between those three. I think Alvarez probably not just because of the fixture, and Darwin no chance because he's can't hit a barn door.
Mm.
So yeah, I think it's just one move of Sun out for someone, and that'll do.
Well, just a quick one on your defence. Let's say Taylor's fully fit. Who are you benching to bring your
I think I would
Foden in
bench
for?
Conser
Yeah,
for sure,
yeah,
and
I
then
agree. Actually,
I would probably just bench Taylor still.
What after that
I
as the
think,
second pick?
yeah.
Okay.
It would be like Gabriel. Well, what would it be?
Maybe
A three?
Gabriel, Porro, Gusto, and Taylor because you got to play 4-3-3, I guess.
Yeah, I'd have to put So Taylor maybe for Taylor will probably play. I think in Conser first bench.
Yeah, I like it. All right. I'll chit chat about mine. I get it. So Foden's in, and looking like Palmer or Watkins captaincy. Maybe for you. All right, let's have a look at me.
Yes, sorry.
That's all right. So
I dozed off then.
that's okay. So at the moment I've sort of laid it out how I'm expecting to be. So Son is going to get transferred out, and I'm like 99% sure I'm going to get Richarlison because I kind of fancy that, keeping that Spurs slot and not doubling up on any other attack really. At the moment, I'm playing Taylor over Porro, which seems a bit stupid, but I kind of back Burnley to keep a clean sheet more than Spurs. And I don't know, you can never guarantee a defender attack. I don't know. There's probably more upside with Porro.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I would definitely be.
Don't know. I just hate the idea of benching Taylor in the first game week when he's got Luton. First game of the game week, and the game week's like 2 weeks long, and he's going to get a clean sheet. He might not. They've only got.
If he gets nothing, and then you'd be absolutely happy about that.
True. Yeah. Anyway, so that's probably the biggest question mark actually. Whether to play Porro or Taylor, because I'm quite confident I'm going to just transfer Son to Richarlison, and I'm also quite confident I'm going to captain Saka as well over Palmer.
Saka, interesting.
He didn't look great against Liverpool, admittedly, but Arsenal did create a lot of chances, and they just didn't fail. And I think they'll get more chances against Palace and probably better ones as well. So yeah, I think Arsenal are probably a better attacking team than Chelsea. And
he Saka had an XG of 1 against Fulham. Like that's decent. Like an XG of 0.58 against West Ham as well. Like that's also decent. Like I think his numbers are trending upwards.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to haul because he hasn't done that all season. He's got one double digit. FN saying so Archer's being played no matter what. Yes, I think so. Archer's been good to me recently. He's got me 2 returns in like three games.
Has he been actually playing? Like, has he been starting?
Yeah, because he started over Haaland for me. He got 8 against Villa and he got 5 against Luton. So he's come in and actually done well. I didn't play him in that City away game when he got benched, but kind of expecting him to be back in the team. And he doesn't seem like an immediate sell because after this week, I've obviously got the money in the bank to do Archer to Haaland if Haaland's back, and then I'll have Haaland, Alvarez, and Watkins. I don't really fancy taking a hit to get rid of him because I don't see the upside in many other players. But if Haaland's still out, Solanke's obviously still available. So no, I feel quite confident about Son to Richarlison and maybe probably playing Porro, captain Salah.
Nice, and we should find out about Taylor tomorrow. I'm guessing
it
should be a press conference tomorrow for them. Yeah, I think.
No, I think that should be good. All right. Any more to add before we wrap up?
No, I don't think so.
Because we're approaching.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting week where everyone goes. There's loads of options.
I agree.
Hopefully, I will not get too mad if I don't pick the right one. I think
that's the thing. Like you got to think about the option over like 3 or 4 weeks because most of us, if not all, are going to be getting Salah and some back in. So it's just about who's going to do well in the short term.
Yep.
Cool. All right. Well, thanks everyone for joining us and all the questions in the chat. That's great. We'll be back. We'll do a recap, a mid-game week recap because it's over 2 weekends. But we'll be back next weekend just to talk about how it's gone so far. It'll be a bit of a short stream, but be the same sort of time, 5:15 on a Wednesday. Thanks everyone for joining us and listening to us rabbit on. And
yeah, give us a like and a
yeah,
subscribe,
if you haven't
people.
already, that'd be great. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, all right. See you next time. Bye bye from me.
Yeah, cheers all.
Bye bye.